Hello and welcome everyone. Get ready for an incredible story about an undercover CEO who takes matters into his own hands to uncover the truth about what's really happening behind the scenes of his company. This is a tale of leadership, transformation, and the power of empathy. Marcus Hall, the CEO of Blissful Bites, goes undercover in his own bakery chain to see how his employees are truly being treated. What he discovers will leave you amazed at how one bold move can change a company's entire culture. Stay with us, you won't want to miss this. Blissful Bites was once the crown jewel of the bakery world, a thriving chain that had expanded from a single store to dozens of locations across the state. At the heart of this success was Marcus Hall, a visionary entrepreneur who had built his business from scratch. Over the years, however, Marcus became increasingly distant from the daily operations of his stores, focusing more on corporate meetings, financial reports, and investor concerns than on the pulse of his bakeries. As the company grew, so did the challenges. Whispers of low employee morale, high turnover, and customer complaints began to surface. While the official reports from managers painted a rosy picture of a well-run business, something felt off to Marcus. The personal connection he once had with his employees and the day-to-day operations of the bakery had slipped away, leaving him with a sense of unease. It was these whispers that prompted Marcus to take action. Tired of relying on secondhand information and reports, Marcus made a bold decision. He would go undercover in one of his busiest stores, Blissful Bites, downtown, to see for himself what was really happening behind the scenes. This decision was not just about uncovering problems, but about reconnecting with the heart of the business, his employees. With a fresh perspective, he hoped to make things right before the issues grew beyond repair, and to restore the company's original vision of a happy, thriving workplace for all. Determined to see the truth firsthand, Marcus knew he had to go to great lengths to blend in and avoid detection. He made the decision to go undercover as a new hire at Blissful Bites downtown, one of his busiest locations. To ensure no one recognized him, Marcus completely transformed his appearance. He shaved his signature clean-shaven look into a scruffy beard, donned glasses, and wore a simple black cap and apron, blending in with the uniform of the regular employees. Gone was the polished CEO who appeared in corporate newsletters and promotional materials. Today, Marcus was just another barista on the clock. His first day started early in the morning, and as soon as he stepped into the bustling cafe, he could immediately sense the stress in the air. The cafe, located in a busy downtown district, was packed with customers even before the morning rush fully hit. Despite the chaos, Marcus was greeted by Olivia, a barista in her late 20s who was tasked with training him. Olivia seemed friendly, but also weary, as though the long shifts had taken a toll on her. She gave Marcus a brief tour of the cafe and showed him the basics of how to prepare the ingredients and set up the workstations. Her voice carried a sense of exhaustion as she quickly moved through the motions, multitasking and running between the counter, register, and baking station. Marcus could tell that this wasn't just a typical first-day experience. It was clear from Olivia's strained demeanor and rapid movements that something more serious was at play. As customers began to flood the cafe, the intensity increased. Olivia moved between the orders, trying to manage the front line while also preparing drinks, and Marcus could see the weight of the responsibility bearing down on her. It wasn't long before Jeff, the store manager, made his presence known. Jeff had a no-nonsense attitude, barking orders at the staff and criticizing employees for small mistakes. He rarely stepped in to help during the busy rush, preferring to stand by the register and make corrections from the sidelines. Marcus observed Jeff's leadership style with growing concern, noticing how employees seemed to scurry around, looking over their shoulders in fear of his reprimands. Olivia, however, remained calm despite the pressure, maintaining a professional demeanor but barely managing to keep up with the demand. When the morning rush finally slowed, Marcus had a chance to talk to Olivia, who explained the chaotic daily routine. She spoke briefly about how the store was often understaffed and how she and the other baristas were expected to do the work of 2 or 3 people at once. Olivia mentioned that Jeff rarely helped, and when he did, his attitude was dismissive and unsupportive. He would leave the staff to manage the chaos alone, offering only criticism when things went wrong. Olivia's weary face told Marcus everything he needed to know. This wasn't just about high customer demand, it was about a broken system, one that was taking a toll on everyone in the store. As the first day drew to a close, Marcus knew he had seen only the surface of what was truly happening. He felt a deep sense of concern and frustration, but more than anything, he felt determined. If this was happening in one of his stores, how many others were suffering the same fate? As the day progressed, Marcus found himself fully immersed in the chaotic reality of working at Blissful Bites downtown. The morning rush had been just a preview of what was to come. The cafe was a whirlwind of activity, with customers flooding in and out and the staff frantically trying to keep up. Marcus stood behind the counter trying to juggle tasks and assist where he could, but it was clear that the stress of the situation was taking its toll on everyone. Olivia, despite her friendly demeanor, moved quickly and efficiently, preparing drinks, taking orders, and even restocking the shelves. But as she worked, her exhaustion became increasingly evident. Her hands were rough, her movements were mechanical, and her eyes were tired from the constant pressure. She would often glance at the clock, clearly counting down the minutes until her shift was over. It was hard to ignore how much she had to bear. Olivia was the backbone of the operation, yet she was constantly running on empty. As the line of customers stretched out the door, Marcus witnessed firsthand the level of chaos that Olivia and the team had to contend with. She wasn't the only one overwhelmed. Tom, a young barista who had only recently joined the team, was struggling to keep up with orders, fumbling over the register and looking panicked whenever customers asked for anything complicated. Yet, when he made a mistake, Jeff, the store manager, was there to reprimand him loudly in front of everyone. "You need to focus, Tom. How many times do I have to tell you?" Jeff barked, his voice cutting through the noise of the busy store. The discomfort on Tom's face was palpable as he nodded quietly, his hands trembling as he tried to fix the mistake. The public humiliation was not an isolated incident. Marcus watched as Jeff stood behind the register, pointing out every minor error employees made. There was no guidance, no support, just a constant stream of negativity. Jeff didn't offer to help when the orders piled up or when a machine malfunctioned. Instead, he would simply bark orders from the sidelines, offering criticism rather than assistance. "Faster! You're holding up the line," he snapped at Olivia when she was a second too slow with an order. It was clear that Jeff's leadership style, if you could call it that, was based entirely on fear and intimidation. He wasn't there to help, he was there to dominate. The atmosphere in the cafe became increasingly tense as the day wore on. The staff was exhausted, but there was no relief in sight. Olivia was still working double time to keep the cafe running, and Sophie, a cashier, was barely keeping her composure. She looked on the verge of tears every time Jeff gave her a sharp order or pointed out a small mistake she made. "Come on, Sophie, do you want to stay here or not?" he yelled as she hesitated over an order. Sophie's face turned red with embarrassment as she nodded quickly, trying to hurry through the line of customers. The stress in the air was thick and suffocating. When the rush slowed down, Marcus tried to offer Olivia a moment to catch her breath, suggesting she take a break, but she simply shook her head, a tired smile on her face. "If I stop, everything falls apart." "There's no time for breaks here," she said, her voice tinged with exhaustion. Olivia was trapped in a cycle of overwork with no time for self-care or respite. Marcus felt his frustration building. He had expected a busy, fast-paced environment, but he hadn't anticipated the level of mismanagement and neglect that was clearly plaguing the store. As the shift continued, he saw more of the same, employees running themselves ragged while Jeff stayed in the background, offering no real leadership or support. It was clear that morale was at an all-time low, and the customers were beginning to notice. He overheard a conversation between two regulars who were complaining about the long wait times and the disorganized service. "What happened to this place? It used to be so great," one of them remarked. It struck Marcus like a punch to the gut. Blissful Bites had once been known for its friendly service and inviting atmosphere, but now the cracks in the foundation were impossible to ignore. As he observed the chaos unfolding before him, Marcus realized that this wasn't just about a busy store, it was about the broken culture within his company, a culture where employees were pushed to their limits, and managers like Jeff were allowed to create a toxic environment without consequence. The reality of what had been happening behind the scenes was far more damaging than he had ever imagined. As the day unfolded, Marcus began to uncover the full extent of the dysfunction that had taken root at Blissful Bites downtown. When the morning rush settled down and there was a brief lull in the action, Marcus saw Olivia standing near the counter, her posture slumped, clearly drained from the non-stop pace. He took the opportunity to speak with her more personally. Olivia hesitated at first, but then opened up about the deeper issues at play. She spoke quietly, her voice filled with frustration and weariness. "It's like this every day," she said, her eyes reflecting the exhaustion of long shifts and poor management. "We're always short-staffed, and it feels like we're constantly just treading water. If we mess up, it's our fault, but no one is ever here to help when we need it." Olivia revealed that Jeff, the store manager, had been in charge for years but rarely contributed to the team. She explained how Jeff would often stay behind the counter, barking orders and criticizing the employees for small mistakes. His absence during busy periods was glaring, and the blame always fell squarely on the staff. "He likes to pretend everything runs smoothly," Olivia added, "but behind closed doors, it's a mess. He just knows how to make the numbers look good on paper." Olivia's words cut through the tension in the air, revealing just how much of the store's chaotic atmosphere could be traced back to poor management. Marcus began to realize that the problems didn't stem from a lack of effort on the part of the employees, but from the top down. The system had failed them. Olivia's frustrations continued to pour out as she described how employees were overworked and underappreciated. "We don't get breaks, and when we do, it's only for a few minutes. The work never stops, and when we ask for help, Jeff just tells us to suck it up," she said, her voice tinged with bitterness. She explained that the turnover rate was high because of this constant strain, but it wasn't just about the physical workload. The emotional toll was just as heavy. "People don't stick around long," she said. "Either they burn out or they get pushed out by Jeff. He makes it so stressful that you can't even think straight." Olivia also shared how Lena, a recent employee, had quit after a particularly grueling week. "Lena was a great worker, but she couldn't handle it anymore," Olivia said, shaking her head. "She asked Jeff for a day off, and he told her that if she couldn't handle it, she should quit. So, she did." Marcus could feel his stomach tighten at the realization that this toxic environment had been allowed to fester for so long. The stories Olivia shared were heartbreaking, but they also painted a clear picture of the systemic issues within the bakery. While Blissful Bites had been praised for its high customer satisfaction and its growing number of stores, the reality behind the scenes was vastly different. Employees like Olivia, who were doing their best under difficult circumstances, were being pushed to their breaking points without any real support. The culture of fear and unrelenting pressure was not only damaging the employees, but also, in the long run, it would hurt the customers as well. Marcus realized that the company was at a tipping point. If things didn't change, the cracks in the foundation would only deepen, and Blissful Bites could lose what had made it so successful in the first place: the people. The very people who had built the company, sacrificed their time, and worked tirelessly to ensure the business's success, were being mistreated and ignored. The vision Marcus had once had for the company, one of joy, quality, and community, had been completely lost. The store that had once represented these values had turned into a high-pressure factory, and the people behind it were paying the price. It was clear that the first step in repairing Blissful Bites wasn't just fixing the management, it was about restoring the respect, trust, and care that had made the company a success in the first place. After spending several days working undercover, Marcus was left with a deep sense of urgency. The issues he had uncovered at Blissful Bites downtown were systemic, and the toxic culture had spread far beyond just one store. It was clear that Jeff's management style was not an isolated problem, but a reflection of deeper issues within the company. The employees were overworked, undervalued, and living in constant fear of making mistakes, while managers like Jeff were allowed to run their stores with impunity. Marcus knew he couldn't let this continue. He decided it was time to act, and act fast. The first step was confronting Jeff. Marcus had already witnessed enough of Jeff's poor leadership, his failure to step in and help during peak hours, his harsh treatment of employees, and his utter disregard for creating a supportive work environment. Marcus made the decision to reveal his true identity. He walked up to Jeff, who was standing behind the counter, barking orders at the staff. "Jeff," Marcus said calmly, his voice cutting through the noise of the cafe, "we need to talk." Jeff looked up, stunned, as Marcus introduced himself as the CEO of Blissful Bites. His initial shock quickly turned to defensiveness, but Marcus didn't let him off the hook. "I've spent the past few days working alongside your team, and what I've seen is unacceptable," Marcus said firmly. "You've been running this store with fear and intimidation, and that stops today." Jeff tried to justify his actions, but Marcus cut him off. "No more excuses. You're fired, effective immediately. This behavior is not something I'm willing to tolerate." The look on Jeff's face was a mixture of disbelief and anger, but Marcus didn't flinch. He knew this was the only way to send a message, not just to Jeff, but to the entire company. Next, Marcus turned to Olivia. She had proven herself time and time again working tirelessly under extreme pressure, and it was clear to him that she was the right person to help turn the store around. He offered her a promotion to assistant manager, along with a significant pay raise to reflect her new responsibilities. Olivia's face lit up with surprise and gratitude. "You've earned it," Marcus said sincerely. "This store needs a leader who cares about the team, and you've shown that every day." Olivia was overwhelmed with emotion, but promised to do her best in the new role. Marcus knew that this wasn't just a gesture, it was a chance to restore the balance at Blissful Bites. With Olivia in a position of leadership, the store would have the right foundation to rebuild its culture. But Marcus's actions didn't stop there. He wasn't content to only make changes at one store. He knew the company needed a full-scale overhaul. He immediately called for an emergency meeting with his executive team, where he laid out the situation he had witnessed firsthand. He made it clear that Blissful Bites needed to change its approach to employee relations, with a focus on support, respect, and a healthier work environment. Marcus demanded an internal audit of every single store, no more relying on sanitized reports from managers who had a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. He also pushed for new policies that would ensure fair treatment and improved work conditions, including better staffing, better schedules, and a company-wide focus on employee well-being. The changes were going to be big, but Marcus knew that it was the only way to turn Blissful Bites around and restore the company to its original vision, a place where both employees and customers felt valued. This was just the beginning, but Marcus was ready to fight for the future of his company. The morning after Marcus had taken swift action, he returned to Blissful Bites downtown to see how the changes were being implemented. The atmosphere had already shifted in ways that were hard to ignore. The cafe, which had been chaotic and tense just days ago, now had a sense of calm and order that had been absent before. The team was working with more confidence, and for the first time in a long time, the air felt lighter. As Marcus stepped into the store, Olivia, now the newly appointed assistant manager, was overseeing the morning rush with an energy and determination that was immediately apparent. Her movements were smooth, efficient, and confident as she helped both customers and her team. She wasn't just managing the workflow, she was actively engaging with the staff, offering support and guiding them through the busy periods. It was a stark contrast to the way things had been before. Gone were the days of employees scrambling to keep up while the manager stood idle. Rachel, the new manager Marcus had brought in, was also hard at work. Rachel's leadership style was exactly what the cafe needed: approachable, hands-on, and compassionate. She didn't just bark orders from behind the counter. She was actively involved with the team, jumping in to help during the rush, offering guidance when needed, and making sure the employees felt supported. Rachel's presence immediately put everyone at ease. Marcus watched as she moved seamlessly between tasks, interacting with the team and offering encouragement. She had a calm yet firm approach that made everyone feel like they were part of something important. It was clear that the team respected her and felt more empowered with her leadership. The positive shift in the environment was also evident in the way the employees interacted with each other. Sophie, the cashier who had once been on the verge of tears under Jeff's management, was now smiling and laughing with customers. Tom, the new hire who had once been humiliated for small mistakes, was confidently taking orders and making drinks without hesitation. Even the regular customers noticed the change. One elderly woman, a regular at the cafe, approached the counter with a smile and said to Olivia, "I don't know what you've done, but this place feels like home again. It's a pleasure to come in now. Keep up the good work." Olivia's face lit up with a grateful smile as she thanked the customer, a visible weight lifting off her shoulders. As Marcus observed the transformations, he felt a sense of pride swell in his chest. This was the Blissful Bites he had once envisioned, a place where the employees were valued, the customers were happy, and the culture was one of respect and teamwork. The change had not only been visible in the way the store was running, but also in the attitude of the employees. The stress was still there, of course, but it was now manageable. They were working as a cohesive unit, helping each other through the busy hours, rather than fighting against the clock in isolation. Lena, a former employee who had left due to burnout, was even considering returning. Olivia had heard from her, and she was excited about the new direction the store was taking. As Marcus walked up to the counter, Olivia looked up at him with a grateful smile. "I just wanted to thank you for believing in me," she said, her voice filled with genuine appreciation. "I've never had the chance to truly lead before, but now that I have the support of the team and Rachel, I feel like we can really make this work." Marcus nodded, pleased with how the changes had already started to take effect. "You've earned it, Olivia, and you're not alone in this. Everyone is part of this journey." As the day went on, the atmosphere continued to improve. The employees were engaged, the customers were smiling, and the cafe felt like a place of genuine warmth and care. Marcus could see that the team had finally found a rhythm that worked. They weren't just surviving the rush anymore, they were thriving in it. This was only the beginning. Marcus knew that Blissful Bites still had a long way to go, but today was a big step forward. The transformation of the store was proof that it was possible to restore a healthy company culture, and that it could start with just a few changes in leadership. With Olivia and Rachel at the helm, Marcus had no doubt that Blissful Bites would be able to recapture the spirit of its early days and continue to grow into a company that valued both its employees and its customers. As Marcus stepped out of Blissful Bites downtown that afternoon, he couldn't help but reflect on the journey he had just begun. The changes were still fresh, but he could already see the tangible difference they were making. What had once been a toxic, disorganized environment was now becoming a place of support and cooperation. The employees were no longer just surviving each shift, they were thriving. Marcus had learned a valuable lesson during his undercover experience. He had seen firsthand how easily a company could lose sight of its core values when it became too focused on the bottom line and the numbers. For years, he had trusted his managers to uphold the culture and environment he had worked so hard to create, but the reality was far from what he had imagined. His own disconnection from the daily operations had allowed issues like poor leadership, employee burnout, and a lack of support to fester unchecked. Now, with the first steps of change already in motion, Marcus was determined to stay connected with his stores. He understood that being a CEO wasn't just about meeting with investors and reviewing spreadsheets. It was about the people. The employees were the heart and soul of Blissful Bites, and it was their well-being that ultimately determined the success of the company. Marcus knew that these changes were just the beginning. There would be many more challenges ahead as he worked to implement new policies, improve conditions across all stores, and rebuild a culture of respect, collaboration, and trust. But for the first time in a long while, he felt hopeful about the future of his company. The road ahead would require continued effort, but Marcus was committed to ensuring that Blissful Bites not only served great coffee and pastries, but also provided a workplace where employees could feel valued and supported. As he walked away from the cafe, a renewed sense of purpose filled him. This was the beginning of a new chapter for Blissful Bites, one that prioritized people over profits and a commitment to making things right. Marcus was determined to ensure that the culture of care and respect he had always envisioned for his company would continue to thrive for years to come. The story of Blissful Bites teaches a powerful lesson about the importance of leadership that genuinely supports and values employees. Marcus Hall, the CEO, learned the hard way that a company's success isn't just about profits or expanding its reach. It's about maintaining a healthy, respectful work environment where employees feel appreciated. His decision to go undercover revealed how easily a toxic culture can take root when leaders become disconnected from their teams and focus solely on financials. Through his experience, Marcus discovered that effective leadership is not about commanding from a distance, but about being present, engaging with employees, and addressing their needs. He learned that trust and support must be mutual, and that taking the time to listen to employees' concerns and offering help when needed can transform a workplace. The story highlights that building a successful business requires fostering a positive internal culture, where employees feel empowered and valued. Marcus's transformation from a detached CEO to an empathetic leader who understands the importance of work-life balance and respect is a reminder that a thriving company starts with a healthy, motivated workforce.